The fear of rejection is one of the most powerful forces shaping human behavior, and most people have no idea how much of their life it is quietly running. Fear of rejection rarely announces itself directly. It operates quietly in the background, disguised as caution, practicality, or simply not being in the mood, while actually shaping an enormous range of life decisions. It's the job application that never gets submitted because rejection from a company that hasn't even seen the resume yet feels too risky to invite. It's the relationship that never gets pursued because the possibility of being turned down outweighs, in the moment, the possibility of something good happening. It's the honest opinion that stays unsaid in a meeting or a conversation because disagreement carries the risk of disapproval, and disapproval feels like a cost not worth paying. It's the calculated risk that quietly gets downgraded into a safer, smaller version of itself, justified afterward with reasonable-sounding language about being practical or realistic. What makes this pattern so powerful is that it rarely presents itself honestly as fear. It dresses itself up as sound judgment, so the person making these decisions genuinely believes they're being sensible rather than avoidant. Most people who are heavily influenced by fear of rejection have no accurate sense of how much of their life it's actually steering, because the mechanism operates below conscious awareness, filtering options before they're even consciously considered, quietly removing anything with meaningful potential for rejection from the list of things worth attempting in the first place. The reason rejection feels genuinely painful rather than just unpleasant is that it isn't processed as a purely emotional or abstract experience. It activates the same neural regions the brain uses to process physical pain. Neuroimaging studies of social exclusion have found activation in the anterior cingulate cortex and the insula, the same structures that light up when someone experiences a physical injury. This is not a metaphor or a figure of speech. Being excluded, turned down, or left out registers in the brain using overlapping circuitry with being physically hurt, which is why rejection can produce sensations people describe in explicitly physical terms: a punch to the gut, a tightening in the chest, an ache that has no clear location but feels undeniably real. This overlap likely exists because, for most of human evolutionary history, social exclusion from the group carried genuinely life-threatening consequences. Being cast out meant losing access to protection, resources, and survival itself, so the brain evolved to treat social rejection with the same urgency it treats physical threats. In the modern world, being turned down for a date or ignored after a message carries no such survival stakes, but the ancient alarm system hasn't been updated to reflect that. It fires with the same intensity regardless, which means the pain of rejection isn't an overreaction, it's a brain doing exactly what it evolved to do, applied to a world that no longer matches the conditions it was built for. Fear of rejection isn't evenly distributed. It tends to be significantly stronger in people who learned early that rejection carried real, serious stakes rather than just discomfort. Someone raised with conditional love, where affection and approval had to be earned and could be withdrawn based on behavior, learns early that being rejected by a caregiver was a genuine possibility with real consequences, not a hypothetical fear. Someone with a history of being bullied learns that social rejection can be public, humiliating, and sustained, which builds a heightened alertness to any sign that it might be happening again. Someone who experienced abandonment, the departure of a parent, a sudden and unexplained loss of a close relationship, learns that people the child depended on could disappear, and that lesson tends to generalize far beyond the original relationship. In each of these cases, rejection wasn't just uncomfortable when it originally happened. It represented a genuine loss of safety, belonging, or love at a developmental stage when the child had no independent way to secure those things elsewhere. The nervous system responds to that kind of early experience by building in a heightened sensitivity, treating even minor, low-stakes signs of possible rejection in adulthood with an urgency that made complete sense in the original context, but is wildly disproportionate to an unanswered text message or a lukewarm response from a new acquaintance. Fear of rejection has a set of behavioral patterns that show up consistently once you know what to look for. There's avoidance of situations with uncertain outcomes, declining to try something unless success feels close to guaranteed, because uncertainty itself has become intolerable when rejection is even a possibility. There's excessive reassurance seeking before acting, checking repeatedly with other people whether an idea is good, whether a message sounds okay, whether a plan seems reasonable, seeking outside confirmation before committing to anything that could result in a no. There's over-rehearsing interactions, running through a conversation dozens of times in your head before it happens, drafting and redrafting a message multiple times before sending, trying to eliminate every possible angle from which rejection could occur. And there's a tendency to interpret ambiguous responses as rejection well before any actual evidence exists. A slow reply gets read as disinterest. A short answer gets read as anger. Silence gets read as a clear and final no, when in most cases the explanation is something completely unrelated, like the other person simply being busy. Taken together, these patterns create an exhausting amount of mental overhead around interactions that, for someone without this fear, would require almost no deliberation at all. Sending a text, asking a question, proposing an idea, because so much energy goes into managing the anticipated pain of a rejection that, in most cases, never actually arrives. When fear of rejection goes unaddressed for long enough, it doesn't just create occasional discomfort, it systematically shrinks the range of a person's life by eliminating anything that carries a meaningful risk of rejection. And because nearly everything worth pursuing carries some risk of rejection, a relationship might not work out, a business idea might get turned down, an opinion might be unpopular, a creative project might be criticized, the elimination process ends up removing an enormous portion of what actually makes a life feel expansive and meaningful. What remains is a narrower and narrower set of safe options. The job that's stable but unfulfilling. The relationship that's comfortable but not particularly deep. The routine that guarantees no humiliation, because it never asks anything risky of anyone. This narrowing happens gradually enough that it rarely feels like a dramatic loss in any single moment. Each individual decision to avoid something uncertain feels reasonable and small on its own. It's only over years, looking back at relationships never pursued, ideas never shared, and opportunities never attempted, that the cumulative cost becomes visible. By that point, the avoidance pattern has often become deeply entrenched, reinforced by years of practice at steering away from anything with real stakes, which makes the eventual work of reversing it, deliberately choosing uncertainty after years of avoiding it, feel disproportionately difficult compared to where it started. The most effective way to reduce fear of rejection isn't to build up confidence first and then take risks. It's to deliberately practice being rejected, in small, low-stakes situations, until the nervous system learns that rejection is survivable rather than catastrophic. Entrepreneur Jia Jiang demonstrated this directly with a public experiment he called rejection therapy, deliberately asking strangers for increasingly unreasonable things. A burger refill at a fast food counter, a stranger's backyard to play soccer in, a donut shaped like the Olympic rings, specifically in order to be told no. What he found was that repeated exposure to rejection dramatically reduced its emotional sting far faster than most people would expect. And in several cases, the seemingly unreasonable requests actually got granted, revealing that the anticipated rejection was often far more certain in the person's imagination than it was in reality. This works because fear of rejection is maintained largely by avoidance. Every situation dodged means the brain never gathers real evidence about what rejection actually feels like or how survivable it is, so the imagined version stays terrifying and unchallenged indefinitely. Deliberately seeking out small, low-stakes rejections, asking for a discount, proposing an unconventional idea, inviting someone to something, gives the nervous system direct, repeated evidence that a no doesn't end anything important, which is often enough to meaningfully shrink the fear's grip within just a few weeks of consistent practice. Rejection is information, not verdict. The people who change the most are the ones who learn to act before the fear approves. That close-up view is what turns a vague feeling into something specific enough to actually change.